Really quickly, before we get started today, just take a look at these screenshots right here. Wouldn't you want your game to look like this? Look how beautiful this is. It almost looks like a completely different world, something other than GTA 5. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be discussing what Mount Chiliad, San Andreas, Palito Bay, the Grand Senora Desert, basically the entire north part of the map, what it should look like, and what Rockstar has sort of done wrong. So that's always been my biggest complaint about the GTA 5 map. Yes, the map is massive and it's kind of broken down into different quadrants, but outside of the city, basically the space up north is really underused. It's, for the most part, 3 big mountains, and for the most part, that's it. You've got the military base, you've got a couple small cities, but there really isn't anything to do, nothing that makes it feel sort of like a different world. That's always been my biggest complaint, and for the longest time, even in Grand Theft Auto Online, I've wanted Rockstar to add something up north to make it worthwhile to actually go up there. And they really haven't done that yet. There's been a couple DLCs that have added various properties and, missions that have you going up here, but nothing that permanently would make you want to stay up here. And that's always been the biggest problem. Well, today we're going to be looking at a mod that was created by a user JRod on the GTA 5 mods website, which I'll leave a link to in the description, that completely changes the world of GTA 5 and makes it absolutely incredible. And as I mentioned earlier, really what the entire northern part of the map should look like. So he has a couple of mods that are on his page. One of them is called Forests of Senora. Another one is called Forests of Chiliad. Today, I'm going to be using Forests of San Andreas, which I'm pretty sure is like the combined version of those. And what it essentially does is enhances the northern part of the map. What you know is more of San Andreas and less of the city Los Santos. So what does this mod actually do? Well, it's actually going to add 5,813 different trees to the game, which you might not think makes a difference, but for the most part, the northern part of the map is supposed to be based off of a forest. The only problem is it doesn't really look like a forest because there's not a ton of trees. These trees, which by the way are giant and massive, really add a ton of depth to the game. Now we're going to be looking at 2 different versions today. There's redwood trees and there's cedar trees. The one we're looking at right now, these are cedar trees. So in the comments down below, I want you guys to write which one you think looks better, the cedar trees or the redwood ones, which we're going to take a look at a little bit later. I'll give you guys my final prediction a little bit later in the video as well. So first of all, there's a ton of different trees that this user has added, which really fills in the spaces, but also adds to the sort of depth that should be a forest, in which what we really don't see in GTA 5 at all. Another thing that's pretty cool is this mod does more than just add trees to the game. It also adds enhancements to the world itself. So there's a couple of other really cool things added in this, including a safe house that's actually made out of an abandoned structure near the lighthouse. So that's another thing I think would be pretty cool, is if Rockstar added unique little areas throughout the world that were able to provide some really cool, just interesting little details. So for example, we've got this abandoned structure right here. It would also be cool if maybe there was like an abandoned military silo or something like that, or that maybe had like a missile coming out of it. It would also be cool if Rockstar in the forest themselves had, tree houses and huts. If we saw the NPCs doing a little bit more dynamic stuff, like maybe hanging out around a campfire or just doing some weird dances around, maybe like a little tent that they made out in the woods. It'd be really cool to see stuff like that, and we don't. And that's one of the reasons why the northern part of the map just feels so dead, because there's really nothing going on here other than the traffic you see on the roads. And what's crazy is everything you guys are seeing right now is already in the game files. This is not something new that's been modded into the game. The trees you see, the missile silos we've been looking at, all the different things you've been seeing, like the barges off the coast of the shore, all of that is in the game, which means Rockstar could technically add it. All of these trees, everything like that. Now, you do need a pretty high-end PC in order to get all of these trees into the game, because that's just more space, that's more things that the game has to actually compute. but it is pretty interesting. Now, one of the reasons I could see why Rockstar didn't add this into the game is simply because not everyone would be able to run it. I'm not sure if a PlayStation 4 would be able to run something like this, at least smoothly. I'm not sure if an Xbox One would be able to run something like this, at least smoothly. Now, this might have just been something I did on my end, but while I was recording this video, my game did crash twice. And that's probably what Rockstar is trying to avoid here. They wanted to create a game that would run as smooth as possible, even if that meant cutting some of the things from the game. And it looks like that's what they opted for. They wanted for a smoother experience rather for a more glorified experience that might have a few bugs and might have a few crashes. Now, once again, that was just my experience. That might have been something I did wrong installing the mod. It might be my PC not being as good enough. I mean, it is good enough to run the gameplay you guys are seeing right now, but it still crashed twice while I was making this video. So that's probably why Rockstar ended up removing that. But it also gives me hope for future versions of Grand Theft Auto. Maybe we will see stuff like this as computers get more powerful, as consoles progress in the way that they try and match up with PCs in terms of their graphics and computing power. Another thing that would be really cool, and one thing that I would add to a mod like this, and maybe not even necessarily a mod, but just something Rockstar could do going forward, is maybe add seasons to the game. That would be really cool. So in the spring, you have like the bright, beautiful colors of the flowers just starting to bloom. In the summer, they're, full green. They're super vibrant. In the fall, you see them transform to really pretty colors like browns and yellows and oranges and reds. And in the winter, you would see, everything go dormant and maybe snowfall would hit the ground, especially in areas like Mount Chiliad, where in real life on the top of Mount Chiliad, there's pretty much snow every day of the year. So that would be really cool to see sort of dynamic weather be added to, an update like this that has a lot to do with the nature of GTA 5 itself. And as I've been mentioning throughout this video, it's more than just trees. You guys have seen barges off the coast of the water that just adds a little bit more to the dynamicness of the world. You guys have seen players sitting around campfires, abandoned houses, sitting on islands and stuff like that. So there's a lot of little things that this mod adds that are just beautiful in my opinion. I am just an absolute huge fan of this mod, everything that it's brought to the game. Now, getting back to the original debate that I was talking about earlier, discussing which ones you guys like better, the redwood or the cedar trees. I think I like the redwood trees. So the cedar trees have like a little bit more leaf to them, if that sounds pretty weird. So they actually fill out the area a whole lot more, but those redwood trees are massively tall. And when you're driving through them, it's an incredible experience. So I think from the air, like in the airplanes, I think the cedar trees look better because you get a little bit more green leaf coverage. But when you're on the ground and when you're driving on the road, driving next to those redwood trees are absolutely stunning. And it just looks incredible. Now, I believe I've covered an earlier version of this mod, maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, but this is definitely the first time I've covered this mod that is covering the entire state of San Andreas. We're not just talking about Mount Chiliad. We're not just talking about one specific area of the map. We are really talking about the entire northern part of the map. Essentially, once you get past the Vinewood sign, that's when you see all of these changes start to take place. And it really does change the world. I mean, 5,813 trees, it makes it feel like a more dynamic place, which is what I think should have been all along. Now, I do have to give GTA 5 some slack. Again, it did come out for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 originally. And getting back to a point I made earlier, that's probably why a lot of this was cut from the game. Just the graphical powers on those consoles aren't there yet. So this is something that I'm really looking forward to in the future. Rockstar creating beautiful worlds like this, because if it can be done with mods, it can easily be done with Rockstar's talented development team of professionals that do this for a living. So I'm very excited for the future, but for now, if you have the ability to add this sort of thing to your game, you totally should. But anyways, that right there is what San Andreas, Mount Chiliad, Senora, the Grand Senora Desert should look like in GTA 5. Let me know if you think this update to the game is awesome. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Again, remember to answer that question, redwood or cedar. If you did go on to enjoy this video though, a like rating would of course be awesome. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new. you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.